Welcome, brother. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Um, I'm here still adjusting. Well, feel like I've adjusted to LA, so that's been good.
Define adjusted.
Um, so the I've always wanted to come to LA. I always feel like I could
Hmm.
live in LA, and so like now that I'm here, I have to adjust to not having the usual things like I had in New York. So like not having friends around, family around, and things like that. And I realized that it's not necessarily having friends around, it's just having them in proximity. So like the option to go see my friends is like what I'm really missing. So like being here and not having like the options to like go see like who I would want to go see,
Hmm.
as far as like friends and family, has been like an adjustment. And then just uh finding ways to like make money while I'm out here, which has been pretty going pretty well.
Yeah, you've been
Um
pretty busy actually.
yeah, I try to be. It's funny because I actually started doing it's been a while since we spoke, but I started doing the actual thing that I came out to LA to do like for work wise, which is
Yeah.
help my aunt. She does like foster care for autistic teenage boys. So I've been
Nice.
like assisting her like with that as like the main thing that I've been doing.
How is that experience for you?
It is it's good. Partially because now I have a 7-year-old daughter. So that mixed with like the autistic boys, they're teenagers, but they have a mind of like maybe like in single digits, a child in
Yeah.
single digits. So it's like that's helping me like be more patient and be a parent and like know how to talk and like, when to be more disciplined, when to be more soft, like just understanding like the dynamic between like I guess a guardian and a child. And then
Hmm.
also now having a child because of Mila's daughter.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I started also thinking about like my own parents and like the way I was raised. And I've
Hmm.
always like since I was young, I always said like when I become not when I become a parent, but like if I just do the opposite of whatever my parents are doing, then I'll pretty much turn out to be pretty good in life.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Were your parents that bad?
Say that again.
Were your parents that bad?
Um, their
And,
relationship, huh?
okay, and at what age did you recognize that?
It was at a pretty young age. I was definitely like maybe it's before I was a preteen that
Hmm.
that I just knew my parents didn't have like a regular relationship, or they didn't have a healthy relationship. My 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 parents had me while my dad was married to somebody else,
Hmm.
and my mom spent like most of my, as far as I know, like most of my childhood like always like chasing my dad even though like he was married, or
Yeah.
like trying to get him to like be with her or whatever the case may be. And it was just a very toxic relationship. My mom used to get like made fun of, like the running joke would always be like you're chasing a married man. My dad is always like cheating on his wife, and just like mom and dad always used to argue. My mom would send me to my dad because she felt like if she didn't, then he wouldn't give her any money. Um, so so for basically most of my childhood, just seeing how they interacted, I was like, this doesn't even seem fun. Like I put it in the mindset of like fun, and I was like, this doesn't even seem fun or help like
But
fun for somebody.
here's my question to you. What other marriage or relationship did you have to compare it to that you knew that this was toxic and this is not what a healthy relationship looked like?
I didn't.
Especially as a preteen.
So I actually didn't. I just knew that it just wasn't good, and it's just like, okay, well, if this isn't, I don't have an example of what good is.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was just do the opposite of what my parents are doing, not do something else.
Because you recognize the emotions that you were seeing from your mom, right? Would you see her cry, be angry, and the way that she talked about your father?
Yeah.
And that with those context clues, you were able to determine, okay, this is not a good thing. Their relationship, as you deem it, is not healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. So when she sent you to your father's home, how were you received by his wife?
Terribly.
I could imagine, because you're a walking representation. I don't want to say mistake, because you're definitely not a mistake, but of his infidelity.
Yeah. So, and it was kind of funny or kind of weird, because my stepmother, who my dad was married to, is like this very devoted, like strong Christian woman. And it's like all of that just went out the window whenever I came around. It was like, yo, that lady was evil. Like she was
in what ways? What ways?
Nobody held my dad really accountable for like what he was doing. Like, you know, they would be mad or whatever, but it's whenever it came down to it, the person, like I was getting like the harsh end of the stick. So I'm getting my mom, who's only doing like using me to like
guarantee a paycheck
as an attachment to my dad. And then I have a stepmother who is not really nice to me like when I come around. Like my first memory of my stepmother is my dad like bringing me to like his house, and like she just like going off, like barking, like I don't want him in my house.
How
like
old
get
were
him.
you?
I had to be 5.
Wow, that's a lot for a 5-year-old to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it gets even pretty interesting, because like little things would happen. Like she would
It's
give me
interesting that you describe it as interesting.
interesting.
Someone else would be, yo, this was very traumatic. I'm hearing it and I'm feeling bad for you. But your spin on it is it's interesting, meaning that's the way you generalize it in order for you to cope and make sense of it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it was happening so often and so regular that even though I knew like I didn't like it, or this is not how I was supposed to be treated, I kind of just got accustomed to it. I got accustomed to like bad things happening to me in my childhood. There's like a bunch of other things, but like one of the things I remember vividly was my stepmother was a seven-day Adventist. So she would my mom would send me over there for the weekend. I would have to go to church, 7-day Adventist or whatever. And then afterwards I would go with my little brother and his mom and like his family members to like one of his aunt's house that was like close by the church. And when I was younger, I couldn't eat like bell peppers. It was bell peppers, and it was like another vegetable that I really didn't like. And I was like, I really don't like it. If you put it on my plate, I'm not gonna eat it because it doesn't taste good to me. So because I just didn't want like this one vegetable, I would get less food overall of everything. Wow. So afterwards, I would tell my dad like, "Yo, I'm hungry." Like because my dad would just leave me. I'd come back like, "I'm hungry." I would go home like, "Yo, I'm hungry. Like I'm starving." And everybody was looking at me like, "Didn't you eat?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I didn't get a lot of food." So everybody just thought I was just like being greedy, but I was like, my stepmother noticed that, and she would purposely give me less food than all the other kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I also must ask, how did your brother treat you?
Me and my little brother were fine. We grew up together. So I'm the oldest of 4 boys, but me and my little brother are a year apart, where the younger brothers are like 10 years apart. So it's mostly me and him. But my childhood wise, if we're talking about like up until like 11 years old, my brother was like mostly a reflection of his mom. So like me and my little brother would get into like a lot of like little fights. My little brother's also kind of bad, but we would get into like a lot of little fights and stuff like that. But I didn't know what was going on at home. And I could think about this now that I'm an adult, but I didn't know what was going on at home with him um, as a child and having to grow up in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So when I come around and my little brother has an attitude, his mom has an attitude, and like I'm just I'm just being me. This is like I used to be confused about why me and my little brother used to get into it a lot, but it was just like a reflection of my dad. But we're very close now in our adult age and like
Yeah.
understanding. But there was a point where in our teenage years, so my mom, this is another story in itself, but we're gonna get to that another time. But my mom kicked me out. We had gotten into like a physical fight, and which was more so my mom like hitting me with a 2x4. So I got kicked out and I got sent to like
I'm sorry that I'm laughing. It's
it
just mind-boggling, man.
is like you don't even see it coming, right?
Because I'm Haitian as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've dealt with some unorthodox beatings in my past, so I can definitely
Yeah,
understand the pain that that carries.
yeah.
But my question to you is, have you ever had this? Well, yeah, I'll go with this one. Have you ever had this discussion with your stepmom at any point once you got older?
No. And it's because I was just so turned off by her. By the time I became an adult, it's just like I don't want anything to do with you. I've always been the type to where it's like I don't feel like I give anybody a reason to be mean to me.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to like treat me like that, and that was one very obvious like, girl, I ain't do nothing to you. So when I got older, and this went up to my her being the way she was, went up to like my teenage years of like my mom, um, me and my mom got into a physical altercation. I got kicked out. I'm still in high school. I have to go by my dad because I don't have any other parent to go by. And my stepmother, knowing like the altercation that me and my mom got into and how bad it was, still told me before like the day was even over. So I get to this physical altercation that evening, go by my dad that night. My dad and my stepmother tells me like, well, you still have to go back home. And it's just like, miss, I just got beat with a 2x4. Why would you send me back into this environment?
Yeah.
And so, and it's for me, it made it even worse because she was like this strong, devoted, like Christian woman. And just like, I don't think this is how Christians are supposed to be acting. And that just gave me like a very big like distaste in my mouth for like with religion. So she was like my prime example of like a Christian. She was like, as far as I knew, like the strongest devoted Christian like I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, so with her acting like that, and growing up seeing a lot of hypocritical things in like Christianity and the history we have of Christianity and slavery, I was just like, I'm really not too attached with this religion. But this really all started with my stepmother when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Um,
If you go back to that time period or to your childhood in general, are there any instances where you felt loved?
um, it's good. That's a very good question to ask because I was telling Mila that when I think back to my childhood, and this is connected to like me coming out and like adjusting to LA, I was thinking back to like what I'm leaving behind like in New York and like family members like and a lot of things. And I think back to my childhood of like because my parents are like part of like people that I'm just like leaving behind in the past.
Yeah.
So when I think back to my childhood, I think I can find happy times. I can think about happy times, but it's shrouded in so much like hurt, trauma. It's like as soon as I think about a happy time, I could think about within days, within hours, within a time frame where something else was like ridiculously bad during that time.
Wow.
So I don't really have a lot of like good memories to like keep attached to, because there may be like, I guess, let's say 20-25% good memories, and then there's like the majority of it is just like a lot of bullshit that I had to deal with like as a kid.
Huh?
So now,
How about your grandparents? Were they involved? Did you have any positive experience with anyone?
yeah, so my grandparents were fine, but all my grandparents were in Jamaica. So I came to New York when I was 5 years old. I only had three grandparents because my father's mom passed away when he was really young.
Mm-hmm.
And all my grandparents were in Jamaica. So I'm cool with my grandparents. They're all passed away now. I was close with all my grandparents, but um, yeah, that and my grandfather on my father's side is kind of like, it's not an excuse for my dad, but it's kind of a reasoning why my dad is the way he is. So my grandfather, his mom died when my father's mom died when he was really young. So he was raised by my grandfather. My grandfather has like 20 something kids. So yeah, Jamaican man having 20 something kids, and you're raising a son who has like no mother. It's just like you can now see like how we're gonna go down like this
Yeah.
line. And
Yeah.
so my dad now has like four boys with four different women.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm curious to know, at what age did you develop an invisible friend? Did you have one?
um
Can you recall?
n- no, I wouldn't say that, but I've always just like, my mind has always been racing. So I've not necessarily a visible friend. I just always had like somebody to talk to, which is myself in my head, which is just me making like different connections of like different, all these different things that I always think about like nonstop. So my mind is like always continuously like racing and thinking.
You know what's interesting is that based on your experience, you've learned, based on your experience and the lack of warmth and the lack of presence and the lack of love, appreciation, acceptance, like all of the things that you needed from a parent, you were devoid of most of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you developed your outer world versus your inner world.
Mm-hmm.
You still did not develop to become a narcissist. That's
Which is funny because no, I didn't develop to become a narcissist, but I did develop my own pride and ego, where I just felt like nobody else is gonna tell me that I'm good at things, that I'm great at things. So I had to develop a way of like recognizing my own accomplishments and congratulating myself for it. So at a young age, my mom told me, it's like a Jamaican saying. It's like, not a Jamaican saying, but my mom would tell me like, if you don't have, you just do without. So
wow.
I just applied that to everything. So I grew up poor, so I applied that to everything. So when I didn't have something, it was like, all right, well, I just got to do without, or I just got to learn to live without this. Her saying that, I don't think she realized that I applied it to everything. So it's like, oh, I'm not getting a certain level of love. Fuck it, just got to learn to live without it. I'm not getting like clothes or like certain things. Like, fuck it, I just got to learn to live without it. And so when I didn't get praise for like any accomplishments or things that I did, I just learned to just like keep trucking on. And then it got into the point where it was like, all right, well, now I need to realize that people do get congratulated for things. I had to just congratulate myself because I'm who I had. And it's not to say like I didn't have family members or friends that like loved me and I hung out with, but my home, my foundation wasn't like that. So it's like I go out, get a little bit of love, come home to bullshit all the time. Yeah.
At what age did you move out?
I didn't move out to like 18, 19. I actually didn't move out. I got kicked out.
Wow.
Yeah. What happened? So I started my job with the MTA, which it was between like going to work for an MTA or like going to college. And for me, one, I don't like the school system. I love learning things. I just don't like the setup of a school of like sitting down and trying to remember shit. But also
Such a
it was,
creator.
I know, right? But it was also like a big majority part of it. It was I need to get money so I can get out of this house. I need to like move away from my mom.
You had to
And
survive, so you chose a paycheck.
exactly. So let me see how I could shorten this story. Basically, I start this job. I tell my dad, like, hey, can you help me like get a car? Like, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll help you. Just like give me like 2 of your pay stubs. So I'm like, all right, cool. And a few days after, my mom comes home like barking on me because she went to court to get child support for me, which is already like past the time I'm supposed to be getting child support. And my dad gave the court my pay stubs.
And that's
So
money now.
so I'm making money now. So, and I still never got a car. So the point of him asking my pay stubs was for him to use it in court so that he won't have to pay child support anymore. Still never got me a car. My mom comes home barking on me, and then my mom kicks me out. Oh, takes my phone, then kicks me out.
Takes your phone so you can reach out to nobody for assistance or for help, but leave you out to the street.
To dry. In which then I had a best friend. Her name is Simone, and her aunt took me in. So this is my best friend, so I'm close with her family, and her aunt took me in, which like is her MO. She's done this before with like her other family members. She's like the mother figure. Like she's a chef, so she cooks Thanksgiving, like all of those things. So I got really close with her family, and she took me in. And she's actually who I consider now to this day is like my mother figure. So she showed me, like, I grew up in that environment, and then once I got out that environment at 18, she showed me how to be a man. So she told me like how to treat women, be honest with them. A lot of the bad bitch ways that I have of myself is partially because of my aunt. And then also her husband is like who I consider my father figure, because he's like the mentor. He's the one that got me into like working out and stuff like that. So when now I get to this point of understanding like my mom and dad's relationship is very bad, I need to not be like that or be the opposite of that, and then I'll be pretty okay. And then I meet this woman at like a pivotal point in my life, and she takes me in and shows me how to be a man. So now this all ties into why I'm thinking about like adjusting here, thinking about like all these like childhood things and the people that I'm like leaving behind, and realizing that it's actually easy for me to no longer speak to my mom or my biological mother or father anymore, because for a long time it was an attachment to them, because like I don't have nobody else. But that's when I found the mother and father figure, it was just like, oh, y'all can go. And now it's gotten to like this point in my life right now where I was trying, and I was like, I'm perfectly okay with like these people not being in my life. And I don't, even as a kid, I've never felt like a necessarily like an attachment to them. Like, I don't think I'm compatible with my parents.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? If your parents are not emotionally intelligent enough to respond to your needs as a baby, as a child, and as a teenager, you're not going to have that relationship, that attachment to them at all.
Yeah.
And and what's interesting is that a child tends to kind of disassociate for language, my apologies, themselves from the father first, and then the mother, because again, the mother's the one that tends to provide most of the warmth. But I also think for you is that as a child you needed them, and you had an expectation due to the title they upheld, mom and dad, right? We have this idea, this is how they behave, and this is what they do, and this is what they provide. But as you got older, you've realized even though you have those titles, you've never met those qualifications for me. So therefore, I don't need to force an attachment. I don't have to look for you. or anything like that. Which leads me to this question. You ever had a drug problem?
A drug problem?
Yeah. Drug, alcohol.
Mm-mm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What
Partially,
was your method of coping?
I just dealt with shit. I dealt with everything sober.
How?
So
How?
because of my job, I could never really like I couldn't do drugs anyway.
Oh,
So the only thing I had was alcohol, but I can only get so drunk
all
because
right.
Monday through Friday I had a 9 to 5. And my job is an emergency responder.
Mm,
So
so you got to be alert.
yeah, so I actually had to, with my mind racing all the time, throughout my 20s, I dealt with shit sober. So when people, I guess it wasn't easy. I'll tell you that. Like it wasn't easy to do, but now when people think like, yo, how can you be calm under like such pressure, under such traumatic experiences? How can you just like flow so easily and not be pressed about things? It's like,
Uh,
I've been through some shit.
uh, how much time you got, buddy?
Yeah. And these are just me like shortening the stories for like the time we have. But like if I would have like, which I'm planning on doing, like deep diving into a lot of stories and a lot of things, like it's pretty interesting hell. But for me, I guess when you're so shrouded in it or surrounded by it or and doing it for so long, your body adapts to everything. So I guess my body just adapted to it. It just took it as like it's normal. Now I'm at the point in therapy and realizing like it's never been normal, but that's just how I just dealt. Like my mom said, like you don't have like you just do without.
But you did have, because you met your now mom. Right.
Yeah, 20 years later.
Yeah. So that void that you had for all of these years, she was able to fulfill that. She was able to massage those wounds of yours, right?
Yeah.
What I heard, there's no guarantee you would turn out as you are now. Wow. She's your angel.
Yeah, basically. I go to her. I go to her for anything. I call her before I call my own mom.
Yeah.
I get that. And yeah, and so back to like the beginning of like me adjusting to LA. The last part is just like and me like a part of me adjusting is like unhooking and letting go of like traumatic shit that's like in New York. And it's funny because family is part of the reason, but like one of the main reasons that like I'm in therapy now. So when I was in New York, like I had my own mother call the cops on me. Like
your biological mom?
Yeah. So I bought a house, and you know, me being this was actually like my last straw of like trying to make things work. So buying a house and like moving family in. And long story short, I had my aunt moved in too. She has a son who's my cousin who really ain't shit. And me and him, I had to put hands on him. And he's the one that ain't shit. I'm the one that's like has my name on the house, but my family took his side. Because I had to put hands on him first, because he's one of those dudes that like he talks crazy to women because he hasn't had enough hands put on him. And then when I put my hands on him in the house, he started speaking a lot less and a lot more calm. So but basically the way my aunt is, she basically got the house like riled up and on her side, and everybody's against me. So I had to put my hands on him twice, and they called the cops on me. And nobody had my side or had my back. So during this time that I'm living with like my mom and like my mom's side of the family, just like my mom, my aunt, and some cousins, like it's now a house that's tumultuous and against me. So I'm in my own house. So now I'm coming back. It's back to my childhood again. So now I'm coming back home to a place that's not beneficial for me or me mentally. And that was stressful. So now when I get to the point of like them calling the cops on me like multiple times. And this is like, we're talking about like height of like Black Lives Matter and like
Yeah.
black people and like the police like problems and shit like that. And it's like, why would you call the cops on me over this? Like, I'm here defending the house. This is so it just goes to show like I never really feel like I never have family
Mm-hmm.
on my side, my biological family. And now my father's side is perfectly fine. It's they're dope and I fuck with them. But majority of my mother's side is just like I can't fuck with y'all. So now I'm adjusting to letting that part of me go and all those people like that have been a part of my life go. And I'm doing it for me. So it's like you're
chose
taking
yourself.
choosing myself like I'm taking a loss for a game.
Got you. So you're able to cut the cord and move on because you're choosing yourself and you're letting go of the traumatic environments that you have been a part of that are no longer conducive to you. And New York was that for you to some degree.
Yeah, it's just like symbolic of like me, and it's so funny that I'm on the opposite coast. This was my 20s, now my 30s. Like everything is showing like, hey, this is the transitional part of things. But yeah, I had to let that go. It just got to a point where it was part of like my breaking point. I think the first time I came to you and I told you like, these multiple things happened at like one time. And so like that's what got me to like my breaking point. This is number one or number two reason that sent me to therapy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I just think about like, what's sent me to therapy, because when we first met, or when I first started my sessions, I always said like talk therapy wasn't my thing. And now like I'm here and like that was one of the big reasons. So
every week.
So yeah, now I'm here. It's like that's one of the big reasons, like that and just like accepting that certain people aren't and don't need to be in my life, and this is for the better. It's like trimming down. It's like I'm a people person. I love people, but realizing that less is better.
Yeah, and if we also tie in your the need for you to start validating yourself and start clapping for yourself and say, hey, Orlando, you're doing a good job, because those closest to you in terms of family were not doing it. Is that where the moniker Mr. Bad Bitch come from? And
exactly, because I have to look at myself and I have to put myself on a certain level of confidence and a certain like hierarchy, because nobody is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And that just that that phrase, like if you don't have, like you have to do without, is I didn't realize how much it stuck with me, even with like how I viewed myself as a person that can like achieve a certain level of success. So it's like I get this job, which is great. I have full benefits. I'm making about no less than like 80K a year. Right. And this
without a college degree either.
Yeah, without a college degree. And mind you, I started this job when I was 18.
God damn.
So even with having this job, that phrase of like if you don't have, like you just do without, I'm seeing people like my age like excelling with like with certain things. And I'm just like, how are they doing that? As far as like in media and like just being a creative and stuff like that. And I'm like, how are they doing that? Like, you know what? I can't get to that level because I have to just do without. And then when I finally started like doing other things, I was like, you know what? Let me just break through, because I started looking at myself in the mirror every morning. I was like, I feel comfortable in some type of way. Let me start breaking through and like doing other things and stop telling myself I can't do it. And when I started seeing success from it, it's just like that phrase is really fucked up. because why would I limit myself from all these things that's always been a possibility? Why would I say to myself, like, I can't do all these things? And now I'm realizing that I can. It's like, now I no longer want to like operate under that phase. Anytime somebody says like, maybe you should do less, or maybe you can't do that, it's just like, why not? Why can't I do it? Like, why shouldn't people like hear from me? If not me, then who? So it might as well like be me. Like, I started thinking like that, and I started gaining more success just from having that mind state and not feeling like, yo, you need to limit yourself just because like
I'm
other
getting
people do.
goosebumps right now, man. You can't see it, but I'm just getting goosebumps right now, because what you're basically saying is that at a very young age, what we're doing now in terms of reciting affirmations, you've been doing that your whole life.
Yeah,
Breaking generational curses and kind of changing your mindset and being a bigger thinker and creating that self-belief and that positive self-talk. You've been doing that for a very long time.
Yeah. So this.
Wait, can you take a second and give yourself some credit, though? Not everyone with your story could be who they are today. That could have made it this far as you've had today. You are Mr. Bad Bitch to the T.
This is how I became the bad bitch, because I really had to big myself up. So yeah, so not and the embodiment like of a bad bitch is like, you can do anything, you could be anything, like you can see yourself at any level that you want to be. So now I can embody that. Now I can be the bad bitch. It's like, it's not just the title, it's not a moniker, it's an embodiment. So
it's a way of life, it's a way of thinking, it's your title. How some people have CEO, CFO, and they aspire to these type of things. This is yours, Mr. Bad Bitch.
I am bad bitch.
So now you're in LA. You're assimilating well. You're career-wise, you are earning money, so you could maintain yourself. What other things did you need to adapt to in LA?
Just, I guess, finding my own shit to do. The Aquarius in me, like, we're known to like be loners. Like, we could be by ourselves and stuff like that, but if I'm by myself and I don't have like, I don't know, I just can't, I don't know necessarily like, okay, if I want to go get something to eat, something specific, I don't know where I have to go. I have to ask somebody. If I want to hang out, I only have a limited amount of people. Some are just like friends of a friend out here. So it's like, or I have friends that like are doing their own shit, so they can't just like stop everything and just like chill with me. Like, it's little things like that for me that makes me feel limited. I can't just go out. Before I could just be like, I can call at least 4 people at any point during the day. Somebody's going to be available for me.
Yeah.
I don't have that. That free roam, that freedom that like an Aquarius has, like the air sign we are, I feel like I'm closed in. So if I'm in the crib and I feel like I can't go anywhere, I feel locked in, I feel limited. And going back to that phrase, I no longer like want to feel limited. I want to feel like I can just get up and go. Like, even my finances aren't like what they used to be. So it's like, oh fuck, I can't do certain things. It's like it's all encompassing frustration. But I've learned in the other part of like being alone is really sitting with yourself, knowing what you got to do to like get out of like this situation. And when Mila left to go to like Costa Rica, the first 2 weeks, it was just like, this is kind of hard because it's not like
in isolation.
Yeah, it's not like an isolation. I could just like distract myself for a second. Like, you're really like have to sit with yourself. It's not something that I've had to do for a while. Like in a a house or a home or whatever, and it's just solely me. It's either been roommates or whatever, and then I had a house and like families there. It's like now it's just solely me, and I just look around like, huh, this is hard. But 2 weeks in, I finally came out, and I found like I have family here and down in Inglewood. Got some people that I can hang out with from like time to time. That's like enough.
Nice.
And
You're building your network.
yeah, it's just like I'm building my own routine. I'm building my own like, I don't know, my own base here.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at right now, building my own base, realizing like realizing that like I can be in therapy and that it's good, and I can use it as a way to like also show other people that it's good.
Yeah.
Uh doing things to like work with and help Mila, doing things in like this wellness space or this healing space, like with these kids, with like helping them out and stuff like that. These are all things that I can say are mine. This is my job, this is my brand, this is my way of helping, this is my family that I can go to. Like, just I guess like back to the phrase itself, when you don't have, like, you just do without. Okay, well now I have, and I want to do as much with it as I can, but I need to have something because I haven't had for so long.
I'm proud of you, man. I wanted to see how you were going to take that compliment.
Thank you.
You put your head down and then you smile. But I mean it, I'm proud of you.
I appreciate it.
You've accomplished a lot, man. And not only did you leave your family behind, your friends behind, you also left an audience behind. An audience to some degree that provided freedom and a sense of validation to you. And you still walked away from that. That's impressive. Yeah. That's brave. That's courageous.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I've always kind of had this mind state of like, all right, bro, this is, I can't continue to like go on like this. And usually, funny enough, I would always like push through and keep going. And one of the things that we have, I think I remember we said at our first session was like, you know, I'll just be like, fuck it, I'll just deal. And like me just being like, fuck it, I'll just deal, has built up to a point where I got to like this breaking point of not being able to like deal anymore. Like I'm so filled up, like I can't deal with shit anymore. Now I'm just like, everything's like lashing out and coming out. So yeah, when all these things built up, and like I say, like back in, what was it, March, April, me dealing with shit sober has been so normal that I just been able to do a lot of things. Like even before I came and had a session with you, I was still in severe depression. When I had my breaking point, I didn't come to therapy immediately. I was still in severe depression, signing NDAs, signing contracts, like getting things done, throwing events. And it's just like, I've always just been used to
pushing through
pressure and pushing through.
Yeah.
So now when I get to this point in like April where it's just like I'm dealing with family, I'm no longer doing the podcast anymore because me and my co-host like come to this like severe disagreement where it's just like, I can't sit across from you anymore. I can't sit across a podcast from you after you just said that. That's crazy. And then on top of that, my best friend, who I consider a sister, who's on like takes me in, her father like gets killed.
Oh
yeah. So dying is one thing. Dying, I don't even like fear death. Like I'm more so like curious about it because I just accept that like it's gonna happen to everybody. Being killed is a much different thing. Yeah. So it's like when I'm now under like, I can deal with shit, but when it's more than one thing at a time in a certain time span, it's just like I have to stop everything. And that's always been my coping mechanism, was to do nothing. When something happens, like, okay, all these things happen, drop everything, no longer do anything with any of it.
And I also think that part of you moving away is because while you were experiencing all of these, I don't like to continuously use the word trauma, but all of these experiences that can be traumatic for you, and I'm sure they are, you were
Mhm.
getting support from those where you felt like you could have, you should have received the support. So that's why it was easier for you to walk away from everything and all of these projects because I'm not getting the support that I need right now as an individual. And I can
Mhm.
no longer push through everything and kind of minimize my own experiences. So which is why I said not only did you choose yourself, you chose your mental health and you chose to take time to kind of process all of the
Yeah.
shit that you've been experiencing.
Mhm. And that was the one thing that I always told people. It's like, I just need a second. I was like, and that's literally the first time I've ever said, like, I need a second. Anytime something happens, fuck it. Fuck
Let's
it.
go.
It's on. I'm under pressure. It's up. Oh, depression's here. Fuck it. Let's do it. All right. And then, because I know after my depression's over, I'm gonna be stronger. Like the one like silver lining of depression is if you can make it on the other end, you're gonna be stronger than when you started. For me.
What's interesting is the whole time you're going through all of that, you're putting on shows, you're on stage, you're on a podcast and all of that. And most people don't have an idea. But you're so entertaining. And but that was also your break from your depression.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only
My,
time you don't gotta deal with it because you're you're here. I gotta perform. I have to entertain. I got
mm-hmm.
shit to do.
Yep, that's a fact. Like when I'm putting together live shows, setting up guests, doing episodes, going out to different cities to record people and be recorded, whatever. That whole time I already had to fight with my cousin. I already had the cops called on me.
Wow.
And so like I will go through it with my family and then go record. Hey, welcome. It's Orlando Roye, aka the Big Dick Bad Bitch. And then go right back home into that toxic environment and edit the episode.
Wow.
Yeah. There's been times where like there was one time I was doing a Patreon episode and my aunt came and just started like banging on my door for like nothing. So it's just like I just always have to deal till I get to this breaking point of just like, you know what? I'm tired. And not only am I exhausted, I'm tired of life. And I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. It's just like, all right, well, you know what? For me to get to this point where like I'm tired, I don't know actually how to deal because I've always
Yeah.
dealt with shit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh shit, I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. Everything stopped. I need a second. I'm leaving this, and this, and I just need to like figure my shit out. And like Mila's a blessing because she gave me the cushion to just be like, all right, well, you come here, just chill out, figure your shit out, and then you can like get back to everything. But
All right.
yeah, when I'm ready. But within that time, it's just like I'm trying to be in this mindset of like being better while still dealing with like all the shit from the past. It's like still got to deal with like my family and like this house that I'm attached with them. My friend is going through like getting the affairs in order for her father and stuff like that. And I'm constantly getting hit up about like, when are you gonna podcast again? What happened to you on this? And it's just like, and the funny thing is, the podcast was the part that I got hit up about the most, and that was, excuse me, that was the minor part of like why I was in like, in this like severe depression.
Mm-hmm.
So for yeah, so for the people, so for the main reason that people are like reaching out to me to be like the least of my focus at the time to better myself, it just like it kind of like made that more important than it had to be, only because I had to keep on indulging of like putting that like away because people kept like constantly bringing it up. But I was, yeah, it was just like a really like rough time and a very interesting time, and it was really at that at that low point of this, because this had to be like my one of or my worst like depression I've had to go through. And it's not until I got to like that lowest point where I felt the most alone, when I was just like,
I
okay,
gotta do something.
this is the lowest.
Yeah.
Now I can pick myself up, because I just kept spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. And once I hit that bottom, and I hit that bottom hard, it was like, you're alone. And the only person that's going to make you not alone is yourself. And the
But
only
what's
person.
interesting is you ran toward what you've been always running away from. Silence, solitude, isolation. Because when you're isolating and you're in silence, that's when you're experiencing the depression, right? At times, I think we tend to describe depression as internal anger or internal rage about self, right? And now you ran away to silence, to solitude, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere completely different, where you're alone for 2 weeks in a house and you got to figure it out. You no longer have a stage, you no longer have a mic in front of you. So you no longer are entertaining. Now you are forced to kind of face yourself and do the work and recognize the things within you that's going to allow you to overcome this time period. And you also got family back. Got the beautiful Mila and her daughter. And that provided you with the support, the love, the acceptance, the validation, the foundation that you are always seeking.
Yeah.
She's your second angel.
She is my second angel, other than me, myself, being my first angel.
No, your first angel is Mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Second angel is Mila. She came at the right time.
Yeah, which is funny, because these people come when like there's a transitional period in my life. And it's a blessing. I don't take away from like the help that they've given me in my life, but I just always realized that my depression is like, it's like a boxing ring. Like I can have all these people like outside the ring cheering me on, but I gotta get in the ring and like throw the jabs and like fight back myself. And so I don't necessarily see this like the silence being like a bad thing. Is just a thing. So it's like, yeah, I feel alone in this depressive moment, but I also need to be alone to also get me out of like this depressive moment. So when I sat there, and it's just like, wow, this is rock bottom. With all the people that I had around me, I was just like, you need to focus on only yourself. Like you're dealing with family, and you get a house like to help them out. You're on this like platform, and you're breaking your back to make two people be successful. You're taking on like the grief from like somebody else that's really close to you, like, and the only thing I felt comfortable with like taking on was the grief from somebody that I love and that I feel like is really close to me. But when I have to take on that I accept that I want to take on, but also take on other things that I don't accept, or it's like my body isn't like processing it really well, it's just like so overwhelming. And being in that like silence and realize like I'm all alone and I have to bring myself out of it is when I go, what would a bad bitch do? and at that moment, it's just I'm sitting there thinking like, the embodiment of the bad bitch is like me being with myself and telling myself I'm good, like looking out for myself, like all these things since I was young, to like look to be there for myself. What would I do in my prideful, egotistical state if I was sitting here, not necessarily in depression, but I was sitting here like with these thoughts? What would a bad bitch do? Can't sit there and cry and be alone. It's get your ass up, go find out what you can do, get your shit together, like, and yeah, you could deal with your depression, but fuck it. Fuck it, depression. Come on in, take a seat. because I can't avoid you, so I might as well fight back. And then that's what like I start the process of like fighting back my own thoughts, getting into therapy. And it's like it's just normal for me to always be under some level of stress.
And something also that you said, but that you're not that you do realize, but I want to highlight is not only did you notice that you had to fight back, but you started curating an environment in which you have a better chance at fighting it. And you also surrounded yourself with people, services, and support that will assist in your fight against your depression.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so you called the Avengers to back you.
to back me up.
Yeah. So that's how you're winning.
Right. And I've had like depressive moments before. So I've always like taken things and tried to learn from it. So like the next time I face depression, I have like
tools
with coping mechanisms. So it's like, you know, tattoos, music, reading. Like I've just always had like different things. And when it gets like really bad, it's either going to be sleep or sitting alone. That's like my low point, or like the point where it's like, oh, I've gotten to this point. All these other vices or all these are like coping mechanisms didn't work. And now I'm alone. Okay, now I got to pull yourself out of this. And even in this moment, with like other people being there for me, it also really showed me like who's actually here for me.
Gotcha.
Because it is not that like I was looking for my friends to show up, but the people that are my friends showed up, and they showed up in certain ways. And it'll be different friends groups that showed up in the same way for the same scenario. And the people who I thought were my friends didn't show up in that way that my actual friends did. And then that's what showed me, oh, these are how your friends act in dire, severe situations. And all these other people are either acquaintances or like, you know, people that just know of you or you know of, and you need to understand the difference. And so it was a blessing. The blessing part of that was it was easy to know who my friends are because my friends showed up. People that who I thought were my friends that did certain things or said certain things, I was like, my friends would never say this, or not they never said this. My friends didn't say this. Mm-hmm. And it made it easier to like weed out and trim like the people that I actually should be having in my life. And so now it's like, yeah, I'm leaving behind the family and the platform and like all these other traumatic things, but me leaving that behind spurred up the people that should stay in my life, and it made it even more apparent why they should stay. And now when there are people that like can't get in contact with me, or I don't communicate with them the same way, it's not because like I chose this, it's because everybody else chose me.
Excellent. I have one last question for you. Mm-hmm. Since you have said that you have a history of battling depression episodes, but this one was the lowest. Can you identify why this one was so different or was so successful at affecting you to that degree?
This was my first depression that also included my first depression, the reason for my first depression. Ooh. So I grew up poor. So I was born in Jamaica, came to America. Like my dad was like, what do you call it?
Middle class?
Middle class, but my mom was poor, which goes into the saying of like, you know, you just got to deal without. Forgot what happened. Something happened where like me and my mom were living somewhere. I already understand like I'm growing up poor. And then I had like some family members that had to stay in the apartment where we were staying for a while. And I don't know why, but I started thinking about, wow, like we got to look out for our family. Like, how are we gonna? We're already poor, so it's like, how are we gonna get food on the table? How are we gonna like make sure everybody's good? How is everybody gonna be comfortable? And that's when I realized that I had a fear of poverty. Like, I was also, I'm in school, so I'm thinking about like, I'm under my mother's roof, and now I'm at this point where I have to graduate and go figure out life on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not in a position where I have been groomed to understand life well enough. What am I gonna do in life poor? Because I saw how my mom grew up. My mom raised me while poor. I don't want to do that. So I didn't know that. Like, now I understood, like, I was going through a depressive state to where I was getting like stress headaches and migraines. And so I'm getting these stress headaches and migraines, and it's like, oh, this is my first taste of depression. I didn't realize it till like years after, but I was like, oh, that was my first taste of depression, and it was solely focused on finance. So now I come to this point, and what made it worse was like all those things like broke me, but I also don't have the money to help people in these moments. And I have me, who I am, that is like helpful and shit like that, but I've always been able to be in a position to help people, like also financially. And for Black people, that's a very big thing, because you grow up poor, you tend to be around people that are struggling with money also. And just having that comfortability and not having that financial limitation was like a big thing that always like not drove me out of depression, but it was just like one less thing for me to worry about.
Yeah.
So with all of those things, and now I'm just like thinking about life, it's just like, yo, I've helped, I've reached out, I've done all of these things for people.
You bought them a house.
Done all of these things for people, and now I'm here where my hands are up. What do I what do I do? Who's gonna help me? And it's just like, wow. The people who showed me that they can help me, how they can help me, really showed up. And everybody and everything that I need to leave behind was very apparent how they needed to leave behind. And at the end of it all, I have me. Amen. And that is why the ego, the pride is at the level it is, but it's not narcissism.
Excellent, man. Excellent. You have not arrived. You are arriving. Mm-hmm. You're in a Lamborghini and you're pushing 90, and you're getting there. Good job.
So.
Yeah. Well. Man, respect. I
hope somebody hears this and it helps them.
Me too.
Yeah.